I thank Govinda and Virinda for giving us an overview of the situation of impunity, because this indicates how serious human rights violations are treated and responded to throughout the region. When we talk about human rights violations and the need to correct them by elimination of impunity, we are talking about setting out a human rights agenda through which accountability can take place. But let us also remember that human rights defenders are fundamental actors in the implementation of any human rights program or initiative, whether it is at the national, the regional or the international level. Establishing and promoting democracy, maintaining international peace or peace within the region and within a country, providing or advancing a people-oriented agenda for development cannot be done without the work of human rights defenders. We all know, and we have heard from Virinda as well as Govinda, how much and what human rights defenders do in terms of making sure that not only are human rights abuses and violations made visible and exposed, voices that are raised should result in responses from the policymakers, from those who can make good the harm that has been done. Human rights defenders act in times of conflict. And I know from my experience, as you have just been told, I made numerous reports and numerous visits to all parts of the world to assess what human rights defenders do, how they do it and what they get out of what they are doing. I can tell you that in conflict situations, human rights defenders have not only been the early warning, it is human rights defenders in particular who have taken care of post-conflict needs of women and other vulnerable category of population. So this kind of work that we do, not only is it not recognized the way that it should be, human rights defenders all over the world, and particularly in our region, suffer very serious harm. Human rights defenders all over the world, including in Asia and South Asia, continue to be subjected to assassinations, disappearances, illegal arrest and detention, torture, and suffer vilification campaigns in order to discredit them and to marginalize them. In many countries of our region, we see that human rights activity, in fact, itself is criminalized. Defenders taking public action in protest end up in jail or being beaten by the use of disproportionate force. Media people who expose corruption or other abuse of human rights are either targeted and killed in extrajudicial killings or disappear. We were discussing this morning how dangerous many of our countries have become for journalists. Pakistan, of course, tops the list. Lawyers who are taking cases to human rights, to courts on human rights violations suffer, not only at the hand of state actors, but also at the hands of non-state actors. I come from a country which has become the most dangerous country for lawyers who speak about the rights of minority, the rights of women, and the rights of the family of the disappeared. My organization, which is the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, and Kamran also belongs to the same organization, we lost 3 human rights defenders in a province where they were documenting cases of disappearance. We lost 2 human rights defenders in a province where Islamic militancy is raging and where sectarian killings are taking place. We recently lost a friend and a colleague, one of the very few human rights lawyers who had the courage to go to court on behalf of victims of the law of blasphemy that we have. So, and this particular kind of killing is not just done by the state. Human rights defenders are targeted by non-state actors and state agencies. I may also add that unfortunately, added to the police and law enforcement, military and civil intelligence community has become one of the most significant perpetrators of violence against human rights defenders. You were talking about impunity, and in my work on human rights defenders, and of course because I am a human rights defender myself, I know it instinctively also, there are certain kinds of rights for the protection of which you can become much more vulnerable. Women, for instance, women human rights defenders are much more vulnerable because they are not only more amenable to physical abuse and physical violence, but they are also targeted by social actors and are particularly vulnerable to marginalization within their own community and repudiation even by their own family. Then the other kind of human rights defenders are, of course, those who are working in conflict situations. They are under double jeopardy because many of these human rights defenders take on the responsibility of building peace and bringing about reconciliation. They are targeted by both sections, the state and the non-state or the armed groups opposing the state, because neither the state nor the armed groups involved in the conflict benefit from peace. So anybody working for peace and for restoring normalcy in the communities and in the countries becomes their enemy. So those working in situations of conflict are under a great deal of pressure. Then we have those who are working for economic, social and cultural transformation. For 2 reasons. Firstly, those who are working for these set of rights are either those who want to promote and protect the rights of more vulnerable communities like indigenous peoples, the poor, and protect them against exploitation by the state or associates of the state. So, big business, whose interests the state safeguards, are equally responsible for some of the most heinous crimes that have been committed against human rights defenders who are trying to prevent exploitation of resources which belong to the people. Secondly, amongst the economic and social rights issues are those of minority rights. We live under democracy and live under the false impression that democracy means the rule of the majority. Democracy, my friends, comes with a package of values. Minus those values, the rule of the majority has no credibility or validity or legitimacy. So if it is a popular issue to target somebody, their lives are up for sale. We have such communities in my country. I'm sure that you have those in yours. In Pakistan, religious intolerance and extremism has made the lives of minority communities, especially non-Muslim minorities, hell. In the same manner, in many other countries, if it's not religion, it is caste system or it is ethnic superiority that has given rise to marginalized communities for whose rights those who speak will also suffer the same fate. I would also add to these categories the ones that you were mentioning. Those fighting for transitional justice anywhere in the world are the first targets of the elite in the post-conflict situation. And this I say not just about South Asia. I now have had the good fortune of working with the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. And all the cases that I am doing there relate to failures of the state in defending those who defend human rights. And much of the work that those human rights defenders who were either killed and for whom there has been no response from the state, where the national machinery has either failed or is unwilling to take on their cases, most of them were those who were fighting for accountability of past abuses. And in this context, peace is almost impossible to achieve. We all know that when, and especially in Nepal, you have been through that experience, when these comprehensive peace agreements are negotiated, if these are negotiated and signed only in order that the powerful interests should be pacified, then they will fail. They are not sustainable. If those who suffered because of the reasons why the conflict occurred and during the conflict are left out of the consideration of peace agreement and accountability is not established, in whatever way you want to establish it. I am not saying always penal sanctions are required, but without justice there is no peace. We see victims sitting here. Many of you deal with victims. I know the work that many people are doing. Subodhji is sitting here. Many people are doing this work. How do you think people will respond to measures for peace if their own losses are not acknowledged and recognized by the state and by the political actors involved in peace achievement? When these things are insisted upon, human rights defenders are either marginalized by discrediting them and making propaganda against them that they are anti-state elements and are trying to make trouble, or they are killed by all sides of the conflict. Women, for instance, and we were talking this morning of the Security Council of the United Nations trying to talk about women and peace, etc. What are we women going to do about peace? The first thing they compromise on among in peace agreements is what happened to their women. When we were doing the military action in Bangladesh in 1971 with the West Pakistan Army, the whole world was shouting about what the Pakistan Army was doing to women. Did anybody talk about it later? Did the Bangladesh state ever then take up this issue? It was these poor women who fought for 20-25 years saying we have to redress this. So these are some of the issues I think that we all need to understand when we are talking about the defense of Israel. You all are probably familiar that in 1998, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a Declaration on Human Rights. Although we are very skeptical about much of what the United Nations does, but I can tell you that this is one document which, when I read it as a human rights defender, I thought it was really appreciated. Why? Because it talks about several things. Firstly, it says, it doesn't even talk about, the word human rights defender is not used in the whole of the declaration. It is the act of defending human rights that is protected by this declaration. So it doesn't say that Brinda, she's a human rights lawyer and therefore qualifies to be a human rights defender. Or so and so is a social activist, looks after poor communities, therefore is a human rights defender. No, it says anybody who undertakes any act for the promotion and protection of any of the internationally recognized human rights is a human rights defender. It also says in several parts of that it is the responsibility of the state not only to ensure that people can realize their human rights, but also that the state creates the conditions in which human rights can be realized. For instance, on economic, social and cultural rights. If a state does not make sure that economic, social and cultural rights can be enforced through formal mechanisms and processes, it is failing to create the conditions where human rights, economic and social rights can be realized. It also goes on to state that it is also the responsibility of the state to make sure that if taking action for the promotion of human rights has resulted in any harm, then impunity should not prevail for such harm. It also says that it is an act of protection of human rights if any member of the public undertakes any activity as a part of his or her duty to participate in government. The Declaration is the first international human rights instrument that gives the civil society a role and a responsibility in the promotion and protection of human rights and in the building of democratic institutions. And I think it is in this context that our region can benefit most from the Declaration. We have a long way to go. I must say that there are many worries, there are many problems. Many of us do work which is extremely dangerous with very little results at times. But I always feel that we as human rights defenders invest in the struggle. Success is only a bonus. A much coveted one, of course, but not always the expected one. So, the best thing for us to do as a collective of human rights defenders is to make sure that we infuse each other with energy and to ensure that our presence means or gives a sense of security to the other. People ask me all the time, how do you go on doing the work that you do and the kind of dangers that you are in and the kind of threats that you receive? And I tell them time and again, no international human rights mechanisms gives me a sense of security. It is the people around me. And I'm sure that this is the feeling that all of us have. It is our networks, it is our colleagues who are around us that give us that sense of security. So it is with this particular thing in mind that Ahar wants to promote the recognition of the work of human rights defenders in whichever field they are working. And let me also say in conclusion that we are not people who are extraordinary. We are only people who are doing ordinary work in extraordinary situations. We are also not very courageous people. So I am not going to say that we are willing to die. No. We don't want to die. And we would rather, I am proud of many of my friends who do work in difficult situations and worry about them. But I would not be happy if they die and say he or she is a martyr. I will say, I am sorry that we could not collectively create the environment in which they could do that work with safety and with facility and without fear. So let me say very clearly, we are willing to work and we are committed to work for the promotion and protection of human rights. We are equally committed to creating an environment in which we can do it without dying and without disappearing. Thank you.